What if there was another way to actually live, a way that you can actually start to be in charge of your own healing, a way to get out of this survival mode and into creative mode? Well, it's my job as your host to introduce you to some modalities that might actually make all the difference and to give you your power back. My name is Sarah, and I have the pleasure of meeting you every week to discuss new modalities and new topics that are really making a difference out there. So, buckle up and enjoy the show. Welcome to the new season of the Healing Tree Hub. I'm so excited to actually be on video this year. And I do apologize for the delay in getting this out. It has been an incredible year for my little business, and we're starting to bring out some new courses. So that kind of took over January and February. But never mind, we are here and we are doing this on video, and that's going to be so exciting because it's going to open up so many cool things that we can do in these podcasts. But it also allows you to see who I am as your host and some of the most incredible guests that I have on this year. I can't wait to introduce you to some of these great people and some of these incredible modalities. To kick 2024 off, I chose my favorite subject, the Mandela Effect. This was only introduced to me, I think 12 months ago. It was absolutely incredible that I had not heard about this before. So I thought it just has to be done in a live video version of my podcast because this is just too much fun not to dive into. So those of you that haven't heard what Mandela Effect actually is, it is a phenomenon that occurs when mass amount of people in the collective remember something different to how it actually went down. It's almost, if you want to look into the metaphysical side of things, it's almost as though the timeline's changed because people are really remembering something in one way and then other people are remembering it in another way. And some of these examples that I'm going to give you today might shock you. They are pretty incredible. Now, I'm level-headed, so I truly do believe that with many of these situations, there may be situations where people are just forgetting things or remembering things in a different way. We all have a different perspective or perception of how something is rolled out. Just look at how someone remembers a memory compared to another person and the arguments that take place with that. So I'm open to the fact that some of these might be just misremembered. But some of them, oh my God, I can't wrap my head around it. Now, I was first introduced really to the Mandela Effect years ago. I didn't know it was a thing called Mandela Effect. You see, I was traveling around South Africa with my mother in 2011, and we love Nelson Mandela, my mum and I. So we were traveling around and we went to the Museum of Nelson Mandela. Now, given I was a bit of an airy-fairy younger person, I still am, it's all over the place. But I remember walking around that museum and seeing what an awful time he had and how much, torture, unfortunately, and what he experienced at that level of inhumane experiences in that jail that he was sent to. I remember thinking to myself, wow, imagine what could have been if he didn't die in jail. And I jumped on the bus and there was a whole bunch of older people on the bus. There was hardly anyone my age at the time. And I remember saying that to Mum, and she looked at me and went, "Oh, Sarah, he went on to be the president." I'm like, yeah, didn't that happen before? I was very, very confused. Apparently he'd become the president after he got out of jail and it was all that freedom fighting. And I thought it had happened prior to that and just marked it down to the fact that I'm a bit airy-fairy sometimes about my history, and I must have just got that one wrong. So I thought he died in jail in, I think, the early 90s. And apparently he died later in the 2000s after he'd experienced all this incredible success and changed the country and did some incredible things, which I knew he'd done, but the memories just weren't lapsing. Anyway, I didn't think about this for a very, very long time until a year ago when I learned what the Mandela Effect is. the Mandela Effect is named after Nelson Mandela because not only did Sarah remember it that way, but millions of people remembered Nelson Mandela dying in jail. Now, how do you explain? They named a phenomenon. That's how common this is. So much so that people remembered seeing his funeral in the newspapers, seeing his grieving wife fighting for certain paperwork or something to be released to her. There was detail in a lot of this stuff. So that's where this phenomenon has been born. It's now a thing. And there are so many. I mean, I picked my 10 favorite ones to talk about today, but there are thousands of different things that are happening around the world where somewhere along the line, maybe our timeline shifted or maybe we're just all remembering it differently for whatever psychological reason. You know, I'm open-minded. I know my audience are really open-minded. So let's have a bit of fun with this and see where it takes us. All right. So we know the first one, Nelson Mandela's death, tick. So that's a bit of fun. And I'm going to put a little Q&A on this podcast to see if anyone else has a mind blow moment or is completely rethinking their whole reality at this stage. And also, I'd love to hear from my audience to see if I've missed some really cool ones because there are some awesome ones out there. Okay, so next one. Oh my God, this one here got me. Tank Man. Now, I'm going to pronounce this wrong because it's a hard one, but Tiananmen Square. I think that Tiananmen Square, apologies if I've got it wrong, in China. They had a massive protest many, many years ago and it ended up being a massacre. So basically what had happened, the university students uproared and protests against the Chinese government. And they actually had tanks out on the street. And unfortunately, this was a very, very devastating day in China's history where many, many, many people were killed. Many students were killed for protesting. And there is one particular scene, and I remember it haunting me because I feel things deeply. When I see someone getting tortured or hurt or something like that, my heart just breaks. Being an empath, all those empaths out there understand what I'm talking about. It literally breaks me a little bit. So I remember seeing this footage. I remember it and not wanting to look at it because this man, he gets out in front of this tank with 2 shopping bags to protest. And people looking back at this footage will see he jumps on top of the tank and has a conversation with the person inside it. And then some security come or some particular people come and take him off. Now, apparently, many people like myself remember a much more gruesome and horrific end to that scene where he was standing in front of the tank and the tank literally ran him over, crushed him. And I like the new reality. I like that he survived, but it's not quite what I remember. And I remember this was really clear in my head because it was one of those moments in history that really affected me. So I wouldn't have forgotten it. So really interesting. I know that thousands of people died in that protest, but some of the reality now is that it was a peaceful protest and it just doesn't make any sense at all. So again, love to hear some comments on this. Would love to hear what you think. The next one I found really interesting. I remember watching people singing the American anthems, etc., holding their heart and having their hands on the left side because I remember growing up hearing that the heart was slightly on the left. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, I almost completed my nursing degree and learned lots about biology and then also with a lot of the Chinese medicine and kinesiology and all the work that I've been doing as a healer, I've been learning a lot about anatomy. Now, apparently, even as a first aid trainer where I taught people how to do CPR, I had this wrong. The heart is in the center of the chest. It was never on the left side. Correct me if I'm wrong, but reality shifted here because I still remember learning that the heart was on the left side of the the chest. I even taught at first aid, when I was a first aid trainer, that people didn't need to worry that it was on the left side of the chest, just the center of the chest is where we do the compressions. Like I even put it in there. But no, when I was doing my nursing degree, I learned nothing about it being on the left side. I even remember back in the day learning that the left lung was slightly higher, be slightly, just tiny, tiny bit, but not to the degree that we were talking about. And while we're on anatomy, I remember my mum always asking me if I had lower back pain when I was younger, if maybe it was my kidneys. She was always worried about my kidneys if it was a lower back. When I did my nursing degree, again, learnt that it's more quite high up the kidneys. And that was a mind blower. I remember thinking, Mum was wrong all those years, silly mum, but many people remembered it like this as well. Many, thousands and thousands and thousands of people remembered it. I don't know if they were just teaching it wrong back in the day or if our anatomy has changed. I don't know what's going on, like seriously. So that's a fun one too. So curious to see what other people think. Oh, this one is brilliant. Those of you that are Snow White fans, before I tell you this one, I want to ask you, fill in the blank. Something, something on the wall. Who's the most beautiful of them all? Did you say mirror, mirror on the wall? If you said mirror, mirror on the wall, you would be incorrect. Going back and having a look at the original Disney movie, it's actually magic mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all?
Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest one of all?
Since when? Who changed this? What are they doing? I cannot figure it out. Oh, there's another really good one in Snow White too. You know the song that the little dwarfs sing? They sing, hi ho, we're off to work we go. Sorry, my singing's terrible, hence why I'm a podcast host and not a singer. Well, apparently it is not hi ho, off to work we go. It's hi ho, it's home from work we go. What the? It doesn't even make any sense. It's crazy. Anyway, apparently that's a thing and we all remembered it wrong. So what timeline did we shift? Seriously, this is bananas and a lot of fun too. So, I mean, don't take this stuff too seriously, but it's really interesting because this stuff was like fundamentally imprinted in our head as kids. And many of us got this wrong. So a lot of the ones that I was researching for this podcast did seem to be American. So I'm trying to bring them to sort of an Australian audience. Apologies if you're overseas listening to me. Okay, here's a really fun one. When you think of Tom Cruise's really famous scene in Risky Business, what do you imagine? Do you imagine sunglasses, white t-shirt, socks, sliding across the room? You'd be forgiven if you did. What if I told you he was not wearing a white shirt and he was not wearing any sunglasses? Would you think I was completely insane? Not only isn't it white, it literally is pink. How does the whole collective forget that he's wearing a pink top? I have no idea what happened there, but someone shifted it. Someone changed it because that can't be right. Seriously. And look, I would understand if we all got the sunglasses wrong, because all the way through that movie, he's wearing sunglasses quite often. So, you know, I can kind of understand the psychology around us assuming there'll be sunglasses, but the pink top was enough for me. Like I can't even entertain that. All right. So if you were thinking about a really cool movie and TV show, one of my favorites, and I've had so many arguments with my girlfriends before I even knew this was a Mandela Effect. So this is a lot of fun. Carrie Bradshaw, living it up in the city with a whole bunch of friends, writing a column. What are we talking about? What is that called? What is that show called? If you were to say Sex and the City, you are incorrect. It is Sex and the City now. I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a minute. Seriously. Who changed it? So, yeah, I'm speechless on that one. I've had many, many arguments with my friends. Some remember it and some remember in. I guess it could be a bit of a misunderstanding. But even looking at the picture and seeing the end looks wrong to me. So no, not doing it. So this is a bit of an American one, this next one. But there in the 90s, there used to be a movie called Shazaam. And it was played by a character called Sinbad. Apparently it never existed. Even the actor Sinbad himself swore he'd never done a movie called Shazam, but so many people in my era remember that movie. It was about two kids go into an attic, they find a genie lamp and they rub it, and at first they're really frightened and then they're feeling really fine about it once they get to know him and it's all good. Didn't exist, never existed, didn't happen, erased from history. So that's an interesting one. Now, there was another movie really, really close by called Kazam, starring Shag or Shake. I don't know how to say his name. And people believe that could have been mixed up, but I don't buy it. There's too many details there. And the whole storyline of Kazam was different. It was a little boy that was in the Bronx and he was, getting into gangs, and this genie got him out and reconnected him to his dad. So it was a fun storyline. Nope. All right, so one of the biggest ones that I got introduced to last year was the Monopoly Man. And this one I cannot figure it out. I remember looking when I was playing Monopoly with my kids one day and noticing that the Monopoly Man looked a bit more cartoony and he didn't have the monocle. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, they've changed it. Why'd they change it? There was nothing wrong with the old one. Why change it? Didn't think anything of it. Went off with my life. And then found out that the Monopoly Man never, ever, ever had a monocle. No glasses, no monocle, nothing. It didn't exist, ever. And if you don't believe me, go find that old Monopoly box and see, because you'll freak out. It's insane. And another one I had to go and check as a kid, Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse in my world had red suspenders and red pants. Apparently, the suspenders never existed. Never happened. All in my imagination. I even went back to an old teddy bear to have a look. Sure enough, the suspenders were not there. They disappeared into the other timeline. If my world wasn't already as weird as it is, I would be freaking out because no way. Oh my God, another one. Sketches. Spell sketches for me. If you're spelling it Sketcher, I spelled it wrong probably. Anyway, you're wrong. There has never, ever, ever been a T. Ever. It's always been spelled Skecker. Oh God, I'm probably spelling that wrong too. But regardless, there's no T. There's never been a T. How crazy is that? It's never been a thing. Seriously, who's doing this? Let's finish off with a really interesting one. Now, I know this is a bit American, but many of us would have read the Berenstain Bears. And apparently the spelling changed and people have just been blowing up the internet trying to figure out what happened. Again, as you can tell, my spelling is really not my strong point. But instead of the ending with Stein, apparently it was Stain. Oh my God. It was one of the ones rolling around, but I remember it always being Stein. And it never was. That was just in our imagination. So that's a lot of fun. And I think I will do another Mandela Effect. And I think in the future, I'll do some really funny ones that have like themes. That's how many there are. But what I urge you to do now is to jump on the net, Google, start researching and trying to prove me wrong on this one. You're going to find ones on the Looney Tunes. Oh my God, I just have to tell you about the Looney Tune ones. It's nuts. So when you think of Looney Tunes, like the cartoons we used to watch, how do you spell tunes? I mean, it is a cartoon. So do you remember it being spelled tunes as in Toon? Makes sense, doesn't it? It's a cartoon. What if I told you that did not exist and it was actually tunes, like music tunes, Tune? I know it doesn't make any sense. It's really silly. I don't know why they changed it. Apparently they never changed it. It's all just in our head that it was ever tunes. Like, no. Nope. Nope. Definitely not. Anyway, so I'm sure you'll find many, many more. And I'm sure I have just opened up a huge can of worms for you. If you hadn't already heard about this, you are now going to be researching like a crazy person. And sorry, not sorry. It's a lot of fun. And don't take it too seriously. It's all a bit of fun. But it just goes to show that times at the moment are shifting so fast. So thanks again for joining me on this season 2 of the Healing Tree Hub. I have had so much fun recording this, and it's so lovely to be able to share my essence with you in a video. And I'm really looking forward to the future of this podcast because of you guys. It turned into a podcast rather than a little fill in for my clients. So I love the support. I love every single one of you, and I'm just enjoying hearing about all the feedback. If anyone has a particular subject they would like to hear this year, I am open to hearing it and researching it for you. I don't pretend to be an expert in any of this, but I love learning new things. So I am all about giving the people what they want and researching whatever might be helpful to people as well. Thanks very much. Have the best week.